Okay. Hello, Joe. It's so great to meet with you. And I'm super excited to get into this podcast, learn a little bit more about yourself as a franchise consultant, and learn more about your background.
hmm Well, thank you for the opportunity. I certainly appreciate it. Anytime you can tout your horn a little bit, but it's always a good thing to do. What would you like to know? What would be your question you want to start with?
Yeah. So, first question, more of just a general one. Joe, do you mind sharing a little bit more about your background
Sure.
and what inspired you to become a franchise consultant?
Franchise. Yeah, well, it's an interesting journey for sure. I mean, I spent prior to getting into franchising, I spent 16 years in the oil industry as a senior sales and marketing executive with them as I sort of navigated through that path. But one of the things that was always preeminent, I mean, I was in the retail gasoline side, and it's all about running people, helping people be in business. And then I moved into a senior role and was Canadian National Promotions Advertising Manager, but I wasn't happy, and they made me something. They gave me that opportunity that I had to refuse.
Yeah.
That I mean, it was a blessing on that did happen. And then as I was doing that, I bumped around. I got certified as a master business coach, which I still use that today, and gravitated into franchising with a company out of Toronto. And I got involved, helped building the world's largest internet franchise. So it's fascinating business. We had a company that had 15 franchisees, and we went to 1,500 in
Wow.
87 different countries in 5 years. Well, believe me, I learned the good of franchising, the bad of franchising, and boy, the extremely ugly, all in one place. I mean, that itself is a bonus. I left there and got back after 5 years. I was exhausted. The world traveling wasn't for me, and moved into a role of getting back into my business coaching, and then gravitated. As it turns out, that the call of franchising wouldn't go away, and I
Mhm.
gravitated into a consulting role similar to with another company I had called Matchpoint, which I helped build into an international business as well. And then while I was there, I was an investing and a part owner and a board member of a senior care franchise, which is an interesting category. And we built that to be one of the larger Canadian senior care franchise market, and then continued that career a little bit. But and then I got a call, or I decided. I was always told that you should work for Franchoice, and so I called Franchoice, and it's a by invitation only group of thing. You have to be asked to join, but they didn't know I wanted to join, so I called them, and they said, "Wow!" And the founder of the company, who I spoke with, said, "Oh, I know all about you. You're welcome to come and talk to us, but you have to go through our system." And so I got approved, and 9 years ago, I got involved in helping people find franchise business. But my career is one of very much of progression through different
Mhm.
helping people find businesses, business coaching, getting to that point where I am today with
Sure.
over 450 placements in my career of helping people into business, particularly in the franchise industry. So know my way around it. I work cross border. I work in the US, but I have placed people as far away as in Japan.
Wow.
So there you go. So I
That's
know my
awesome.
way around the gig a little bit, and I've got a lot of knowledge that's there. So that's the story. And oh, by the way, I enjoy it. I'm passionate about it. I'm here talking to you today from a remote location, and absolutely just love what I do. And I'm very blessed that I can do that. So that's
Wow.
5 minutes of who I am and why I do what I do.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that story, Joe. And one of the things that I think is really important and relevant to a lot of clients is the fact that you share both the corporate experience as well as the business ownership, because there are a lot of people that come into franchising without any business ownership experience. They've only
Yeah.
worked in the corporate world. And I think that gives you an ability for other people to relate to you really
Yeah.
well, because you know what
Well,
it's like.
25 years I've had my own business. So it's significant and whatnot, but I never forget the corporate. I never forget that decision. And
Mhm.
it wasn't a happy time. I got a speeding ticket right after I left. There you go.
Oh,
But
yeah.
but it was worth paying. I think
Sure.
I did.
Yeah.
Type
Everything is
thing.
worked
Yeah.
out, that's for sure.
Yes.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Joe. Now, a little bit more of a specific question for you. When you work with clients, what is your process to understand their goals and skills, and as well as their
Sure.
financial background, before you go ahead and recommend them a franchise or franchise options?
A very fair question. And the first thing it is, my phone's ringing. That you can't hear that, right?
No, no, can't
Okay.
hear.
So the first thing is it's not about me, and it never will be, and to be successful, it won't be. So I become very highly focused on my candidates that are looking at franchise. So I really need to understand their background, their story, where they're from, what their journey is, what they like, what they don't like, what is their why, where are we going? Because some
Mhm.
people get into a business for different reasons, right? Some
Sure.
it's about the ability to go somewhere they want to go in their
Mhm.
lives, and the business should take them there. Or it's something they're like me that they want to have that burn and passion for. So
Right.
we gather benchmark information from them about affordability, like what's their story. I'm an in-depth. I don't believe today you should call anybody up without knowing something about them. And certainly the internet provides me mountains of information along the
Yeah.
way that I know. I talk to somebody, I know as much about them as I can. And then I also gather benchmark information. I also use psychometrics. So I use a tool because of the business coaching background that enables me to see how they're wired for franchise ownership.
Mhm.
Basically, do they have the DNA, the ability to do this? And
Right.
then after we get to that point, then it's a discussion
Mhm.
properly done. And the challenge is like the business that I'm in today, anybody can be a franchise consultant. But when you want somebody, you want experience, background, caring, passion, and
Mhm.
and by the way, a guy that's not seeing you as his next lunch, because I don't care if anybody buys a franchise. It won't make or break my day. But what I do care about is decisions, helping people make good business decisions. And you know what that means? Yes and no.
Yeah.
And sometimes franchising is not for people, and I'll sure tell you, or it is, and I'll sure tell you. But then you've got to navigate through that. So it's about learning about them, it's about traversing the course with them and coaching them through the decisions that they have to make. Now,
Mhm.
for example, I mean, they may think they want, like a good example. Somebody said to me once, Joe, I only want a Harley franchise. That's all I want. I got to have a Harley business, which is great. Nothing wrong with a Harley business. But I said, well, why do you want that? He said, well, me and the boys, we go out every weekend and we ride through the mountains and down around here in San Bernardino. And one of us always breaks down. There's no place to go. And I said to the guy, so you want to have a Harley business to fix your friends' motorcycles on the weekend? Yep, that's what I want. I said, when are you going to ride? He went, oh, no, I don't want a Harley franchise. Because it's all for the right reasons, right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
are the whys? And understand that. Now, you can find somebody else to fix your Harley, but enjoy, because that's what the burn was. So
Yeah.
I coach them through that, like when we evaluate where they are in their process. So talking to franchisors, talking to franchisees, legal, funding. Ooh, funding, you need money. Funding and a few other things like that, to the point of making the decision. And it's a very thoughtful, thorough process. In the end, I only promise people that you'll learn a lot about franchise. I don't promise them a business. You're going to
Yeah.
learn all you need to know to make a good decision. But it's my process. Follow it.
Yeah.
You don't
No,
have one.
that's
I
great.
do.
I think you make a really good point, because some people come in more emotional and thinking about the things that they love and not necessarily what is a good business for them, what makes sense. And I think that's the value you bring as a consultant, to help people be realistic, and
Yeah.
you do that through your education. So yeah,
Well,
that's amazing.
there's a gentleman named um, Mr. Hook, and we'll leave it at that for Tom. But anyways, he call. I would say to him, I got to protect you from you, right? Because he was running down this path and he wasn't doing it the right way. And I mean, I'm here to save you, not
Yeah.
in a right way. And he will call me today and thank me and say thank
Oh,
you for doing that, because you you know they get so caught up. You're moving away from something or you're moving towards something. You're better to be moving towards a goal than moving away from something you don't like. Because if you're moving
Absolutely.
from something you don't like, the boss, or whatever, you're going to make a mistake. You improve your chances of making a mistake.
Sure. Yeah. No, that makes sense, and
Good.
really amazing answers. I think it really demonstrates how much passion and care you have for the
Thank you.
work that you do. So thank
Hey,
you.
if you're going to do it right.
Yes, absolutely. Another question for you, Joe, and this one is more contrary to that other question. How do you evaluate and vet franchises themselves before you go ahead and recommend them to a client? And is there any specific criteria within a franchise that is most important to you?
Well, yes, culture, as interesting as it is, but I take a lot of time. I go to 2 conferences a year. I spend a lot of time learning who these businesses are. Like I know people within your organization by way of example, but I want to know them well. I want to know how they're wired, what's their culture like within that, and how does it fit my people? Because it's a match, right? It's got to be like this.
Yeah.
So if we don't do it that way, so my onus is to be I can not only tell you who the president of these companies are, but I can tell you who the sales talents are that they're going to be working with, and I can tell them about you, who
Mhm.
you are, what you do, what you can expect from them, what their style is. Because I want to create an environment where the coming together is about the learning.
Mhm.
And so we have people out, certainly FranChoice is highly regarded in the industry as a company that properly looks at franchises the right way, brings them to the table for us. But the onus is always on that individual to investigate them properly, to truly delve into the
Sure.
understanding of what they're trying to accomplish, and
Mhm.
be there with them. And that was really what matters. So the answer to your question is I rely on my partner, FranChoice, who does a great job of it. I rely on
Mhm.
my own personal integrity of looking and investigating and understanding individual franchisors. And we do that through conference and meetings and talks and all kinds of crazy things like that. And then just the individuals that will, because I've also, the other side of this coin is I love my franchisors. I love the ones that I work with because of what they deliver and what they can do for people. So
Mhm.
I do not want my candidates to disrespect them. I
Right.
want, and then that's another preliminary, because they've got to be trusting that no is all right, but that they're trusting in terms of their negotiations. And I will get them in and out of anything. But when I get on a side like this, no, you're hurting my reputation too. Please stop.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
two-way. Because the value is for it to work right, and not
Mhm.
to be disconnected. That guy's this. Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
No,
not wrong.
I love that you really value the culture and the people of the franchises, because ultimately that's going to be the people that your client's going to work with once they become a franchisee. And like you said, if they're not going to collaborate or mesh well, then yeah, it's not going to end up being a
Well,
great fit.
people call me and say, "Hey, I think I'm looking for a franchise," and I'll say, "No, you're not. You're not looking for a franchise." Well, what am I looking for? What you're looking for is a partner
Sure.
that happens to be a franchise, and that changes the dynamic of everything that you're trying to accomplish. If
Mhm.
you come at it that way, because then you stop doing dumb things like saying, "I got to have a Chick-fil-A." No, you don't. They're
Absolutely.
nice, but you don't. But that is just how it works. So it's culture matters,
Yeah.
and of course making money. But
Yes.
that
That's
matters a
usually
lot too.
important.
And that's, yeah. But I mean, outside everybody's that's a given. But where can you get the most? And if the business, like I say to people, if you got to see yourself like there's. I'm going to divert a little bit here. I'm going to go into 8 things that people need to think about when they're looking for a business. Is
Yeah,
it
go for it.
durable? Is it durable? These are very practical. The first 4 are very practical. Is it a durable business? Will it stand up? Will it be part of what you want? Is it sustainable over a reasonable spectrum of time? Will it work in a recession or in COVID or whatever things they may be? Um, is it progressive? Is it evolving? Is it changing? Is it being? Because if you're ripe, you're already rotting. We don't want that. So it's got to be progressive. And then it's got to be transferable. It has to be a saleable asset that you've got that you can put into a legacy. So durable, sustainable, progressive, and transferable. Now, the emotional stuff, because you got to look at it and be able to say, okay, I can see myself running that business, building that business, enjoying that business, and succeeding in that business. That's the 8 things you want. When you bring them together that way, what you've got is a right strategy to look for the business and be coached the right way through it, because that'll work.
Yeah.
And but if you don't, if you got this thing, and notice enjoy, not passion, because
sure.
Passion's great. I love passion. I do it. I am passionate, and I do this, but that's not for everybody. But I would enjoy this too. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, those are great
a little
points.
gopher hole.
No, excellent points.
That's important to me. But anyways,
Thank you, Joe. Another question, and another specific one. Do you have an example, maybe a bit of a challenging client placement, and how did you work with them to find them a fit?
Well, okay. There's a few of them along the way that are like that, and some of the reasons can be monetary, some of them can be physical, some of them can be, just geographic. So I'm trying. I had about 3 of them I'd listed here. See which one I want to. Well, here is an example, a recent placement where the gentleman was, I'm not here to break up households. And so the challenge was, he was anxious, he was aggressive guy, he's done it, but he's never really maximized who he is. And I've known him for a number of years as a sort of a contact, but it never maximized his full potential. Okay, so we're working through the discovery of the franchise business, and then the spouse was involved, but not to the level that I wanted. And then we find that there's a roadblock. Okay, there's a challenge, and I'm not here to break up households or families or anything to that. So how are we going? What's the challenge? And we sort of talked about it and navigated through it. And it came down to a couple of key issues, which I was able to intercede on and navigate to the franchisor and whatnot, and have this guy start his business. Well, out the door, phenomenal, and I hope it will continue at that rate. But he's enthusiastic and asks great questions. The franchisor loves him, and he's out doing that. And so, but that was a real, just getting in the weeds of a personal life. It's just part of what it is, because it's a family enterprise. And or the other gentleman who was he was from Africa. His wife was living in Houston, and they got a franchise at Halifax.
Wow.
That was a story and a type thing, but to bring them together the right way. But that was somebody that reconnected with me and said, I'm ready now. But then how do we figure it out and getting involved, and then dealing with all across, not one country, thank goodness I have international franchising experience, but 3, and getting them in, navigating them up. And you know what the good news was? Franchising brought a family back together.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's amazing.
And he's got a kick-ass business, I can tell you. I know that, as well as he's still got his business in Africa, that he has somebody that he's running it. So
that's awesome.
It's all but the wife's name was Patience, and she is amazing, and she had lots of it.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that's another key value you bring, is just all the experience you have and working in so many different and unique types of situations. So
I sure have. Yeah. So there's more, but that's the type thing. And then you're dealing with all the issues of getting the right franchisor stuff on top of all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in terms of the financial side of things, how do you tailor or vary your approach with clients who have different financial needs or backgrounds?
Yeah, it's a matching thing. I've got companies that I rely on that are capable of delivering them. I'd prefer they use my companies because I know what to expect as a rule, but sometimes they go off their own, and that can be a bit disruptive. But overall, you sort of assess their financial situation. Different in Canada, it's a little different as to what you can do in the US. Both have different funding strategies that will work. But I've got vendors and things that I can refer to them, as I do in anything that they can talk to. I would not hold myself out as a funding expert, nor do I want to be, but I know who you need to talk to, and that's the value.
The connections, which is important.
Yeah, well, and it takes the trust, and I know, and go back, I know them as well. I can tell you who they are, where they live. I know their dads.
And it's super important because there's a lot of unique financial opportunities and funding opportunities within franchising specifically that not everyone's aware of, but you can introduce them.
Well, and some of the in Canada recently, one of them was in there was a ethnically based company that had got a special program for promoting young black or promoting black entrepreneurialism, and I leveraged some of that. It was fascinating. Yeah.
Wow, good to know. Awesome. Now, this is one of my favorite questions to ask, Joe. Do you mind sharing a story of a particular client that you worked with and you helped them find the right business? They had success in that business, and how proud does that make you feel as a franchise consultant?
Well, I'd love to. I've got a few of them, but I've got one here I want to certainly share with you. So I'd like you to picture this. Let me start here. I'm going to read something to you if you don't mind, and it's
absolutely.
It is. I got this note 2 years ago, or no, this year, but it was it was a husband and wife team. And it's Mike and Melissa, and he said it, and it's actually 3 years. He says, he sent me a note and said, I just looked at my 3 years LinkedIn, and it congratulated him for being in a business. And he looked at his thing, and it was in January of 2022 that he signed his franchise agreement, right? So, and he said, and he made a comment, he says, I can remember my life back then. I remembered our fear, I remembered our doubt, and the tiny bit of hope that you helped flame. That's me, right? And I'm in tears of gratitude as I sit and I text, get this, from my 5,000 square foot office, 8 office staff, all on phones, helping people, phones nonstop, and over 400 caregivers, the senior care franchise, in the field, impacting the lives of hundreds of families. Thank you. So now what you have to understand about this miracle is this guy was living in Ohio. He worked for the government. I had connected with him a couple of years ago prior to this, and then he called me one day and he says, I'm ready. Well, who are you? But I correspond frequently with all those people. Sure. And he says, I'm ready. Okay, and away we went. So in 10 weeks, it was 10 weeks. In 10 weeks, we found the franchise business.
Wow.
But no, it's even better. He lived in Ohio. He sold his house, quit his job, moved to Florida, opened his business with his wife and his 3 boys.
Wow, that's a big risk.
This guy was just so ready, so driven that's what happened. But we identified, now you go back to what you said earlier, I aligned him with the right people, the right vision that he shared with me. I just packaged it. I put the bow on it, put him in front of the right people, the high quality culture fit, the right values, and boom, 5,000 square feet, 400 people. Now that's more than I would want, but that's okay for him and his 3 boys playing football. Playing football. That's what they do. And it's truly an incredible example of them. And I mean, I can go back, I could tell you about a Navy SEAL that's running a $6.5 million business, and or a senior care person, or a home cleaning franchise. I mean, all kinds of them that have just had the courage
Yeah.
to step out, because everything they want is on the other side of their fears and anxieties, and
Yeah.
that's always the drawback. But capturing that, and I have great respect for anybody. Does it always work? No.
Mhm.
I don't. I'd love to say here I'm batting 100. No, people don't succeed all the time, and that's fair. But circumstances, deaths, that'll end it, or or family situations, or just circumstances change, or the partnership was not the right one, in terms of that. I missed maybe something culturally. I share a
Mhm.
little bit of that to a point, but I mean, in the end, diligence, coaching, leading you down the path to success is what we do.
Yeah,
There you go.
no, I love that. And I love that you mentioned that what a lot of people want is just on the other side of fear and anxiety, because I think there's a ton of people out there who dream of entrepreneurship and running a business, but they don't actually make that leap. I think a lot of people aren't
Yeah.
aware of franchise consultants. And so that's the value you bring. You can
Well,
provide that encouragement and advice.
it's about creating a trust. Like you've got
Yeah,
to trust the person you look for, and not everybody's created equally when it relates to this sort of
sure.
business. But we try, and I'm not for everybody. If you can't follow my process, you can't do it the way, because I want you to be successful. Don't ask me to deviate. Don't ask me to change. It's
Sure.
my system. It works
Yeah.
450 plus times. Come on.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about friends. Well, you do. What did your uncle tell you? Well, Uncle Bob told me. That sort of stuff doesn't work. You got to know who you're working with, and you
Yeah.
got to. And if I don't like you, I don't work with you.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think there has to be a mutual fit on both ends, but I love those stories that you shared. It really demonstrates the success and the way that a franchise can change someone's life, which is incredible.
Oh yeah, they can do
Yeah.
it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing those, Joe. And then just one last question. What are some of the common misconceptions that you come across, and how do you
Sure.
help your clients address those misconceptions?
Well, misconceptions are only the opportunity to educate and train and help people understand what's out there. But
Mhm.
franchising, you ask people what they know about franchising, and they say, "Oh, it's food." I
Yeah,
know food. I haven't got enough money for food. Just say, I can't buy a McDonald's. No, you don't need to. They don't realize that there's like business service franchise, B2B. So it becomes part of education, helping
right.
people unpack opportunities, retail, two types, food service franchising, B2B, like what your business is involved with, B2C, all those things that go in automotive, whatever, and just let them know that these are things, and any particular, and it's always just about the question, why do you think that's the right business for you?
Yeah.
I'll make a lot of money. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's like the guy that says, I love to cook. Well, don't buy a food franchise, because you're going to not be cooking,
No, that's
right?
very true.
And or whatever. It depends on the goal, like multi-unit this, or what people are trying to accomplish. So
Mhm.
I acknowledge that they know a little bit, but not what you need to know
No,
to make
that's for sure.
to
I
make
was
a
guilty of
decision.
that. Before I got into franchising, I thought of the McDonald's, and I learned that there's a lot more franchise models out there that are
4,000 in the U.S.
yeah, it's wild. So
And just think about that, Tegan. You put on
mhm.
a street. The visual is I put you on a street, and there's 4,000 houses for sale, and I look you in the eye and I say, which one do you want?
It's overwhelming.
That's what
At
people
first,
do. Like they
yeah,
go online and then the phone rings and they have no plan or whatever. I think I might like that, and not everybody spins their wheels. Doesn't
yeah,
work. Get yourself a plan. Get
absolutely.
Don't look online. Talk to somebody that knows something about it, that has your best interests at heart, and lead the way. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, I appreciate you sharing all of these answers, Joe. It's been great chatting with you.
I
Is there
appreciate the
anything
opportunity.
general or anything else that you'd like to share about yourself or your business?
Be careful out there. No, take your time, do it right, and that's as simple as it is. If you know, use a pro if you can, and
Absolutely.
if you're deadly serious about results, and I'm more than happy to help you through, see what we can do.
Absolutely. Well, I think anyone would be lucky to work with you, Joe, and have the advice and insight that you provide. So,
Oh,
yeah, it's
shucks.
been great learning more about you and your background in franchising.
Thank you very much. You have a spectacular day, please.
Thank
Bye
you.
for
You
now.
as well, Joe.
Bye for now.